Well, the New York Giants are off to a nightmarish start to the season, most recently highlighted by a primetime letdown at the hands of the Chiefs. Quarterback Russell Wilson finished his night 18-32 for 160 yards that featured 2 interceptions in the first half alone. Head coach Bryant didn't announce a potential change at quarterback, but he didn't rule out replacing Russell Wilson with rookie Jackson Dart in week 4.
So Russ remains the starter moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, we're working through, all personnel decisions, and we'll do that over the next few days.
You're not saying Russ is the starter, right? You're saying you're still working through that?
Yeah, we're doing what we normally do, which is, watch the tape. We're just watching it with the players right now. So, we'll have staff meetings after this, but when we come in, we watch the tape, offense, defense, kicking game as a staff. And then we go meet with the players. That's where we're at right now.
Most Monday afternoons, you know who your quarterback's going to be the upcoming week if everyone's healthy, though. It just seems a little different, your responses.
Yeah, well, look, we're going through the tape right now. We're evaluating everything.
So quarterback change is on the table.
I'd say we're evaluating everything.
We're evaluating everything, too, as we're back joined by Bryant, McFadden, and Emory Hunt. And if the fans could have their way, fellas, Russ would have spent the second half on the bench because we heard that "we want Dart" chants that broke out at MetLife in the first half of Sunday night's game. But fellas, as we fixate this conversation towards the troubles under center, Emory, is it time for a quarterback change for the Giants?
Normally, I am on the side of the player and say, you know what, give him time, give him patience. They had a plan in place over the summer, over the spring. It didn't look like this in terms of Russell Wilson, but now I am saying yes. And the reason why I'm saying yes, the last drive. I mean, Russ threw the football into the parking lot on one play. Next play, he threw it in the tunnel. Play after that, he threw it on the turnpike. And it was like, bro, what are you doing? On top of him forcing the ball deep down the field to Malik Neighbors, who was covered. So I would say yes. Jackson Dart deserves to be in there. Reason being, athleticism. He can move, and that adds an element to the game that we no longer see in Russ's game.
In other words, Jackson Dart has juice. He has juice, and at this stage in his career, you can't say the same about Russell Wilson. So I agree with Emory. When you talk about having an offensive line that has a lot of concerns, the best way to cover up some of those concerns, put a mobile, athletic guy in the backfield who could really buy time or improvise and make things happen with his legs. That's who Jackson Dart is. And you talked about that last drive. It's about the fans, right? Like, when you look at the New York Giants, when you look at their schedule, no one foresaw them being a potential playoff caliber team. But the fans here in New York, they want to see fight. They want to see that Cleveland Browns, like, scrappy play. Yeah, you might lose a ball game, but at least you fought, and your fan base walks away and say, you know what? Yeah, we took one on the chin, but we appreciate the fight. We appreciate the effort, the efficiency. And right now, with Russell Wilson, and all of this is not on Russell Wilson, but he is the quarterback. The quarterback is the most important position. They need to find a guy that can provide some juice to the offense, and Jackson Dart is the guy.
And then also you're hearing outside of the Giants camp or inside just how impressed they are with Jackson Dart, what they've seen in preseason, what they saw in training camp, and what they're seeing in practice behind Russ. Certainly not helping Russell Wilson's case, keeping that job. But meanwhile, fellas, in Atlanta, it's now 2 rough starts for quarterback Michael Penix this season. This time laying a goose egg against the Panthers in their shutout loss that led to backup quarterback Kirk Cousins being subbed in after Penix's second interception in the third quarter. He finished that game throwing for 172 yards, no touchdowns, 2 picks, guys, and he wasn't even sacked once in that game. So this is just the 6th start of Penix's young career. But for what it's worth, head coach Raheem Morris announced that offensive coordinator Zach Robinson is moving from the booth to the sideline. So B-Mac, is that enough, or is it still time for a quarterback change?
No time for a quarterback change. I mean, you talked about it, Kiana. Michael Penix just made his 6th start yesterday on the road. Give the young player some time. And when you look at everything that was surrounding him, they didn't do him any favors. This was the first time we saw Michael Penix look like he was a bit confused, right? Every other time, even going back to a week ago against the Minnesota Vikings, he didn't play his best football, but he made timely plays in that ball game that led to them to win that game on the road. So I'm not turning your back. They shouldn't turn their back on Michael Penix right now. This was the first time he looked like a pedestrian as a starting quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons. And we know about not rookie quarterbacks, but quarterbacks that still lacking that experience. They will go through the ebbs and flows in being a professional quarterback. Unfortunately, yesterday was his day.
Yeah, leave him out there. Let him get that experience. Let him play ball. That's why you drafted him. Now, the focus should be on Zach Robinson, because you talk about someone that they move from the press box down to the field. It may be moving him outside the stadium one more week. And here's the thing. Sometimes you may look at who was in charge of making that decision. I know he was big on Kirk Cousins, and I know everyone else was big on, Michael Penix. So where is the disconnect? But this is too early. He wasn't even benched. They were just getting blown out. And it was like, you know what, man, let's just get him out there, save his confidence, and move on to the next week. So leave him out there, man. Like, you expect this type of growing pains with a young quarterback.
He's still developing. But as for Bengals fans, well, Jake Browning was their savior in week 2, stepping in for Joe Burrow and leading them to a victory over the Jags. But fellas, it's been a different story in week 3. After throwing 2 early interceptions against the Vikings and routes that 48-10 blowout loss, where the offense mustered just 171 total yards on the day. And fellas, with Burrow not expected to return for nearly 3 months, their fate as we stand laying in the hands of Jake Browning. Now, Emory, we did talk last week about if the Bengals should make a trade for another quarterback. I want to ask you if your stance has changed at all. Is this now time for a change at quarterback?
And if you remember last week, I told you go sit outside. You can take B-Mac with you, because I know he feel the same way. Both y'all go outside and look at the ball.
Weather's nice. I don't mind sitting outside.
That's what y'all need to be. Because here's the thing. Not every defensive coordinator you're going to face is Brian Flores. He had a bad game. This guy is now 4-4 as a starter. Yes, it was an ugly game, like the worst game you could possibly have, after we spent all week on a Columbia broadcast station hyping you up, talking about you ready to go. This is why they shouldn't have cut you, and you went out there and laid an egg. So I am not giving up. Like I told you guys before, I am your last antibody. I will be standing 10 toes down fighting for you to maintain that job, and he should maintain his job.
I don't know how you're going to stand when they chop your feet off, because that's what it will happen if they don't make a change. I'm not necessarily saying bench Jake Browning, but they need to see exactly who is available at the quarterback position, and here's why. You look at the defensive scheme he faced off against, no question, B-Flow will make most quarterbacks, experienced quarterbacks, have a heck of a day in the worst way. But in terms of just being efficient in the rhythm, we're not seeing that. You talked about what happened in Minnesota, but what happened in the 2 quarters he started against Jacksonville? In 6 quarters of play, Jake Browning has thrown 5 interceptions. Yeah. 5 interceptions. And you're talking about an offense where the offensive line is a concern, but you still have 2 wide receiver ones in the huddle with you. T. Higgins had 1 catch for 2 targets. Jamar Chase had 5 catches on 6 targets. You still got proven playmakers that can make things a little easier for you. It's just like he turned his back on his 2 outstanding wide receivers. And in a division where you're playing against the Cleveland Browns, you got the Pittsburgh Steelers, and you got the Baltimore Ravens. I know both defenses, Pittsburgh and Baltimore, have been a bit inconsistent. But against Cincinnati, they find ways to be successful. And if you're Zach Taylor, it's about trying to tread water best as possible to keep things relevant. I don't know if Jake Browning can do that for the entirety of the season.
Last time I checked, it is still legal in the state of Ohio to run the football. So I don't know why they're not helping him out.
All right, fellas, I'm going to just say the stats don't lie. B-Mac just gave it to us right there. But as for New Orleans, well, their signal caller, now 0-9 in his career as a starter, Spencer Rattler. And the Saints fall into the Seahawks 44-13 on Sunday. Rattler completing 28 of 39 passes for 218 yards. He had a touchdown while throwing an interception, while putting most of those numbers up when the team was already way behind. But simply put, B-Mac, I don't need to set this up anymore. Is it time for a quarterback change in New Orleans?
You know what, it is. And I can foresee this being musical chairs at the quarterback position for the entire season. Because if you're killing more, you're trying to figure out who deserves to be a part of this roster for 2026. 2025 is a wash. It's a wash. This is a rebuild. Now it's about seeing what this roster will look like in 2026. Spencer Rattler, granted, he's not getting any help in terms of the offensive line play and the playmakers surrounding him. But yet and still, let's see what Tyler Shuck has. You invested a 2nd-round pick in him. Let's see what he has. Because at this point, you kind of almost know what you're going to get with Spencer Rattler. And I like Spencer Rattler, but just unfortunately for him, his teammates are not doing him any favors at all. And I don't know if it will change. So let's see exactly what the 2nd-round pick could have, because now it's about establishing who deserves to be a part of this roster in 2026. And as I see it right now, I don't know if they have their quarterback of the future currently on the roster. But let's see exactly who maybe can step up, like I said, in Tyler Shuck, that probably could provide a spark. But regardless who you have at the quarterback position, I think you're going to get the same outcome because you're just a bad team right now as we see today.
And I'm glad I watched this whole game because Spencer Rattler did not get that punt block. Spencer Rattler did not allow that kickoff return for a touchdown. Spencer Rattler didn't even allow the offensive line to get like he is not the issue. I know it's funny when people choose to pick and decide when does quarterback wins matter. You know, when it's a quarterback you like, he's a winner. When it's a quarterback you don't like, he's not winning games. It's a team game. The Saints right now don't have a good football team. When you look at one play in particular, Spencer Rattler bought time, threw a deep ball to Alvin Kamara. He's running right down the seam for a touchdown. He stops running, turns around and tries to catch it with one. Like, what are you doing? That's the type of things that happens. And we know what we're going to get in Tyler Shuck already because he's 26 years old. We saw him play 7 years of college football. So for me, Rattler is the guy. They got to get better everywhere else around.
Well, that ain't happening this season. You talk about they getting better. No.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I agree with you there.
That ain't happening.
Okay, we're talking about not getting better this season, but when you think about it, yes, they do have a game in Buffalo next week. But if you look at the rest of their schedule, they're hosting the Giants. They're hosting the Patriots. They follow up heading to Chicago.
They got Buffalo next week.
They still got the same defense. They travel to Buffalo, too.
Enough said, but I still love when we're on opposite sides
Bless
of
their
things.
heart.
Fellas, as always.